I think as a leader, if I'm speaking to leaders right now, um, as a leader, you have the power with everything that you do and everything you do not do. You have the power for people to look up to you, look away from you, look through you or with you. And I remind myself about this sort of head movement of the people that I work with every single day. And I think to myself, does my behavior demonstrate something that these people want to join me on my vision? Or have I done something that they might want to walk away or look away?
We have the pleasure of welcoming Alex Lazarus today to our interview series. I'm your host Anushka Rajesh from the peopleHum team. Before we begin, just a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Alex heads Lazarus and Maverick, a global network of experts in behavioral change and high performance, leadership excellence, and organizational effectiveness, with access to first-class executive coaches and facilitators in most locations around the world. She's also an award-winning marketer. She's one among the Marshall Goldsmith 100 Coaches Group. We are extremely happy and honored to have someone of her stature on our interview series today. Welcome, Alex. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much, Anushka. Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you.
It's absolutely our pleasure. So the first question I had for you, Alex, was, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and the work that you do with Lazarus and Maverick Limited?
Thank you. Absolutely. Lazarus and Maverick has been a long time in the making. My first career was in the media. I was very lucky, I would say, and enlightened when I was much younger, when I worked for Virgin, and I had access to the type of leadership that Richard Branson had really inspired in me for a long time afterwards. And especially that I was born in Eastern Europe, where back in sort of my youth days, leadership was associated with command and control and a very different style in terms of younger people who had to work really hard to exhibit any kind of, if I can use power influence in social and organizational setting. So when I worked for Virgin and I saw firsthand what an incredible result and impact somebody that has a very inclusive way of managing people and communicating with them and inspiring them has on younger people, I thought this is a kind of leadership that I would love to instill and inspire people to know how to do it. So I have my journey to setting up Lazarus and Maverick was a sort of a round loop. I myself became a leader. My last role was I was a marketing director at Disney, where I had UK-based teams and also international teams. So there was a lot of remote management and knowing how to build trust and how to quickly motivate people in sometimes quite hostile environment. When I say hostile, I mean mainly market dynamics. So that was a fantastic journey for me, for myself, knowing more about marketing and brand and consumer behavior. But what really interested me throughout the entire journey was, how can one person be a phenomenal, compelling leader who changes people's lives sustainably, who instills the greatest mindset and belief, so much so that these people will then go on and become themselves formidable leaders. And then interests me, what happens when someone just doesn't do that? What is it in our DNA? What is it in our nature or nurture that creates that wonderful leadership? Because I think leaders have such an incredible responsibility on their shoulders. So Lazarus and Maverick was built, I would say, on the shoulders of other wonderful people I have worked with over the years. And rather than looking at consumer behavior, I then looked at human deep psychology, human behavior, behavior change, and I completely left the industry in terms of marketing and distribution of TV channels, and I set up Lazarus and Maverick, having myself done Masters of Science in Coaching, Behavioral Change, and learned everything I could about how humans work.
That's amazing. That's one incredible journey you've had there, Alex. So congrats on that, because that's
Thank you.
yeah. So the second question I had for you was, now with the COVID-19 pandemic, businesses have witnessed a lot of transformation and change. So in your opinion, have leadership coaching styles also changed since the pandemic broke out?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it has changed. I have noticed that it has changed. Um, First of all, I think that if the coach hasn't had a particularly good rapport with their client, this relationship probably would have been quite fractured during COVID-19, because people really needed to be themselves. And I think that just speaks to what a good coaching partnership is that you have, your client really knows that you've got their back, but you're also not just skilled at understanding the human behavior. I think COVID-19 brought out, I think, great coaching engagements, or what coach has really made a difference was when a coach also understands not the inner workings of a human being, but also market dynamics and also the micro and macroeconomics. And I have to say this, understanding of the larger scope, having a bigger picture, being able to connect the dots and help your clients think things through, has definitely been something that I've observed in the COVID-19 coaching engagements. So to put it simply, rather than just saying how you feel, what you're thinking, it's looking at, it is connecting human vulnerability with market toughness. And if a coach comes in and not having had a previous solid, really good, thorough, trust-based relationship with a client, for whatever reason, we've noticed that the client just wouldn't reach out to the coach. If we're looking at coaching as a continuum, because coaching is, we're in a talking industry. I always say we're in a head industry and we're talking industry. Coaching is a way of enabling another person reach their goals, accelerate the whether it's their career, whether it's a strategy. But essentially, we do some talking, let's say. But I think the coaching moved a little bit more into consulting for the business as well. And the reason for that is that in the COVID-19 aftermath, while we're still going through it, people have lost sometimes their ability to really dial up their IQ because of whatever is happening at home. It could be children, could be a relative that isn't particularly well or being vulnerable. And so that ability to think has sometimes dipped. People are saying, I've got a bit of a brain fog. So where coaching comes in at this time is a real, I wouldn't call it a rescue call, but it's definitely, it's okay. Let me help you here. So predominantly coaching would be to inspire someone else to think differently, for someone else to really create bigger leaps in progress. But I think COVID-19 had put some of us as coaches into the role of organizational consultant. And I think that has been greatly appreciated by definitely our clients. And I'm now noticing much more of a coming out for leaders to be strong, resourceful, and resilient again.
That's absolutely right. And I think the pandemic has also brought the whole concept of thought leaders to the fore, right?
Absolutely.
So, Alex, how can we convert, in your opinion, an average performing team to a high performing team? How is that transition made possible?
I love your questions, and I am the sort of the maverick enemy who wants to change those questions a little bit, because it's an ongoing progress. So I don't think the transition can happen and then land. Creating high performance, it's about creating a high performance culture, and culture is a living beast. We have to attend to it every day. And but I think I'm sure you're familiar with research. It is not a new research, but it's certainly been popularized by a Google Aristotle project, which resulted in understanding the highest performing team wasn't just about diversity and inclusion. Those were very important things. It wasn't just about leadership, but it was about psychological safety. We've known about this research from the group dynamic science for decades, and I'm very pleased that people are talking about this. So I think high performance is based on, I call it two factors. there are two factors related to it. I call it human achievement, understanding how humans work, what motivates us, what makes us feel safe, what makes us feel inspired and empowered. That's the one thing. And under that, you will have, of course, the leadership vision. You'll have understanding that everybody contributes to the organizational culture, because culture is nothing else and nothing more than a sum of everybody's behavior. So Anushka, if you and I formed a team, your behavior and my behavior would be that team's culture. And it would be a case of every day reminding ourselves, what are our operating rules? Why are we here? What have we achieved? So it's about the human aspect of how we relate to one another. And then when I say achievement, the second component is I do believe that people love success, that success breeds success. It inspires us. If we can outdo our old selves, if we can get greater results, or if we can prove that our business supports bigger picture, whether it's sustainability, whether it's helping other people, but that sense of we're not just static, we're not just stagnant, but we're really achieving something well and beyond maybe our competitors. That also energizes people. So for that, there's got to be conditions for success. And I think that also helps organizational cultures to be what you call high-performing cultures. So when it comes to achievement, that's about, do the people that work with me, do they have the best resources? Do they have the best training? Do they have a clarity of what is expected of them? And then, of course, feedback. That one word that sometimes get people shriveled into tiny people going, oh my God, I'm going to get feedback. But there is a way of using feedback as a fantastic developmental conversation framework. So when we talk about high-performing teams, we will first diagnose, do people feel safe here? Do people understand themselves and those that they work with? Do they know how to build rapport? Do they know how to build trust? Do they know how to help each other out? And that is kind of the human spirit. And the second thing we diagnose will be, when I say diagnose, sounds really medical, but we'll evaluate that with leaders and teams. The second thing, the achievement will be, do you know what your operating rules are here? You know, how do you feel about your job? What is the 3 months? What is the 6 months? What is the 3-year plan that you're reaching, that you're gaining? Are you happy with it? What if you could do even more? What would great look like? So that's high performance is I would say it's almost a daily task. And for a leader, very important to talk about this out and openly, saying, how do we feel we're doing as a team? What enabled us to stick to our operating rules for the best performance we can together achieve? And being able to talk about failure. What happened along the way? What obstacles did you encounter, and how did we all contribute to that? How can we help you next time?
That's so insightful, and I love the fresh perspective that you gave. And I really like how you said it's not a static process, and we're all in the process, and the process is ongoing every time. There's no a start and an end point. It's a journey. And I really like how you connected that with psychology, behavior, and culture. That was very insightful, Alex. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, in your opinion, what are the main and the first steps you take while helping leaders increase engagement?
So for us, each job in each engagement, when we work with clients, is it's very unique. So when I look at some of our work, which we have done with National Health Service here in the UK, some of the work we've done for Disney, for Spotify, work predominantly around, first, you need to know, of course, what the problem is. So if we're looking at, so for example, as an organization, like a coaching and consulting business, your reputation is best served by how your clients have either changed or remain in that place. So when it comes to answering the question, how do we approach any brief and help leaders increase engagement? First, we need to know what is happening that leads to a lower engagement. For that, it is a case of what is observable. Can we interview people that you work with? Can we do a little bit of a field work? Can we immerse ourselves in your culture to really understand what could be a very often unconscious breakage of trust, a very unconscious breakage of engagement? And then we decide who we're going to be working with, who are going to be those champions of engagement, who are going to be the most willing role models that will help the rest of the organization filter down, like a ripple effect, positive, critical, we call it critical success behaviors. So we will identify the root, the cause of the problem, how it manifests itself. What we find very, very useful is doing some qualitative calls, building rapport with individual people, sometimes a fairly randomized folks out there in the organization, because it's very easy to say, speak to so and so and so. But we would like to understand also, what do other people think and feel who aren't exactly assumed to be on the front of the engagement issue? Because we find there's a lot of great information we can find out. We sometimes conduct client research. So if we're allowed, we will do a very subtle conversations with clients saying, what do you observe about this company? What do you think they could be doing better? What do you think they're doing great already? So it's a case of stop, start, continue. And I think that field work is really critical, because I think a lot of the work that we do is great. Why wouldn't anybody want to reflect and learn how to do things a little bit better, even if it's a minuscule small step forward? But for us, our responsibility to deliver on our briefs is a little bit more than that. We need to know the problem, we need to know how to fix this problem, and we need to speak to the wider group of stakeholders, not just the people at the top. And I have to say that quite often what we bring from those qualitative fieldwork interviews is an eye-opener for the top leaders. It's like, I never thought that, I never knew that. Because you sit as a CEO or a chairman or a top leader, there is a bit of that executive iceberg. I'm sure you know about this model, that you're there at the top, you see the world from your perspective, but what about the guys, what we call the shop floor? You don't interact with them enough. You don't know what their worldview is and what they're struggling with. So I would say there are various ways of answering this question, Anushka. But I think doing a thorough fieldwork it works every time, and it doesn't have to be very time consuming. But it's about knowing what we're looking for. So like any qualitative research, it will be looking for something around the company dynamics that is just not working very well.
That's a wonderful answer. So you're saying it needs to be also a bottom-up approach and not just a top-down approach.
Absolutely. I mean, especially in this time and age when, not just the millennials, but Gen Z generations coming through workforce, they are bringing really different worldview with them, different life experiences to what I'm used to. And if we don't connect with everybody across the organization, we're missing out. We're missing out on a lot of talent, ideas, and possible ideas, small incremental ideas for innovation and improvement of the processes, whether it's tech, whether it's a cultural thing, whether it's how we communicate with one another. So I do think that that's a very, very important point. Don't just stay at your higher accolades and the sort of the folks at the top, because what you will know from that world is what you already know. You will be continuing to replicate the type of knowledge and leadership that you yourself have gathered over the last 4 or 5 decades. But what about accessing the wisdom that already exists across the organization? And that's very energizing, really very energizing. We have recently delivered a creativity session at UK and Ireland Spotify offsite for about 80 or so people. And the model that we brought in was how do we respect and value diverse thinking? So for innovation, for example, we set out for them to understand that it's not just about ideation, it's not just about ideas, but it's about embracing everybody, what everybody brings to the table, whether it's your database kind of thinking, because you're rational, very factual, whether it's your emotive thinking, so it's about feelings and understanding how the consumer might be feeling about something, connecting with ideas that way. And then, of course, the doers, the getters, that, okay, well, we have ideas, we know, we've taken them through the kind of critique funnel, what will work, what will not. And now let's just get this down together. So it's a really merging diverse thinking and not celebrating one personality type over another in organizations as well. And I would say that's also really critical, because we talk about acceptance, we talk about inclusion, but we also have to just acknowledge that as human beings, we have different drivers and default beliefs, behaviors, and skills.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you on that anymore. So finally, just to wrap up this interview, Alex, do you have any last sound bites that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I have so many sound bites. This is a very difficult question. I think as a leader, if I'm speaking to leaders right now, as a leader, you have the power with everything that you do and everything you do not do. You have the power for people to look up to you, look away from you, look through you or with you. And I remind myself about this sort of head movement of the people that I work with every single day. And I think to myself, does my behavior demonstrate something that these people want to join me on my vision? Or have I done something that they might want to walk away or look away? So that's the one thing. And the second thing is, I would say 3 laws of self-leadership, because we are all leaders too. It's not just a title. We are all influencers in this time and age when we're so digitally, globally connected with one another. So the core of leadership, how it used to be understood in the previous century, was very much command and control. Whereas today's leadership paradigm, it's about influencing without authority. So the 3 laws for me of that influencing without authority and self-leadership are choice, character, and connection. Reflect on the choices because they drive your behaviors. Reflect on the values that drive your choices. The second thing would be character. And obviously I'm simplifying here, but the second, character. COVID-19 has pushed us to our limits and has tested us on many levels. Building our character, integrity, resilience, resourcefulness, and whatever it is that we want to be known for, that can also be a daily task. So building our strength of our character and what we're known for, what builds our reputation. And finally, the third one is connection. Look at the people that you're connected with. Who is missing from your stakeholder orbit, as I call it? Because to forge a new relationship, to bring someone into your world and become known and more influential to them, it can be a task of 6 months minimum, because you want to grow relationships organically, authentically, and you want to feel that it's a reciprocal relationship rather than kind of a one-way. So think about your choices, think about how you build your character, that self-awareness, and how you connect with those around you, with those who you haven't yet connected, and with the wider issues in the world.
That's wonderful, Alex. I like all your answers. They're so just crisp and to the point. I really like it. So thank you, Alex.
Thank you so much.
A wonderful time, yes, talking to you. And I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing out your views with us. And personally, this was a really enriching experience for me. And I feel if I can learn so much in this 20 minutes to half an hour, I think our audience are surely going to benefit from this too.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to connect with you. I wish you all the best in these testing times. And I hope to connect with you soon on anything else that you need. And so keep in touch.
Thank you. Yes, we'll surely keep in touch and have a happy, safe, and healthy time ahead of you. Take care.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.